1, 2.
Testing, 1, 2, testing.
They're not holding their hand, right? They're talking to them.
They'll pick it up.
Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2.
Do they have to hold it in their hand?
Yeah, you hold this part.
They do need to hold that in their hand. Okay, so they have pick the mic up.
What about you?
You explain to them what you
Excuse me. Hello.
Hello. Have everybody's attention, please. If you're going to be speaking through the microphone, just pick the small part up, the mic right here. You don't have to hold it straight up, but right in front of you will pick, everything will be picked up, okay?
keep telling the rest of us what we're doing. Tell them what we're doing.
This will be live streamed through the museum's YouTube and Google Hangout page. So if you have anybody that you want to text and tell them to log into YouTube, the title, afroamcivilwar1, or you can search the tag AACWM or SNCC.
Okay? Y'all get that? Everybody get ready. Y'all get ready to do whatever he said do. Email.
We really appreciate your proficiency with modern technology.
Yes, right.
Right. But I have help. They know how pitiful it is with me around here. So I have lots of help around here, Tim Jenkins.
Good.
That's right. Okay, so let me welcome you one more time to the African American Civil War Museum. We're here today to sing the praises of another one of our brothers who's gone on home, whose name is Ivanhoe Donaldson. Now, I heard this almost said earlier today, I'm going to say it myself now. When you have a name like Ivanhoe, nobody really knows what your last name is. You're going to be called Ivanhoe. I'll tell you that right now. For a lot of reasons. One, because it's a nice sounding name. And I think the most I ever got out of it was ID. I don't think I ever called him Donaldson. He and I not only worked together at SNCC, but as you all probably know, when we came to Washington, D.C. in 1968, we both were at the Institute for Policy Studies for many years. Tina Smith, who you saw at the fair today, came to the Institute to be Ivanhoe's administrative assistant. And then when he went off, I think, to teach at Amherst, she became the administrative assistant for the whole organization. By then, I was not only a resident fellow, but also on the board of trustees there at the Institute. And for those of you who don't know what the Institute for Policy Studies is, it's a left-wing think tank. Okay? And so I was at a SNCC meeting one time down in Mississippi at one of those veterans meetings, and they said, well, the Institute for Policy Studies was like a place where civil rights workers would thrive. It was like they had another name for it, which I thought was funny. Because nobody really knew what you did at a think tank. I didn't know before I went over there, Joyce. I was at a left-wing think tank. Joyce was at a right-wing think tank.
Not a right wing.
Well, at the Institute for Policy Studies, we call it a right-wing think tank.
Brookings?
Yeah, Brookings. And so basically what we did,
It's in the middle.
basically what we did was to read and write and research. And for me, who had just come out of the Mississippi Delta after 5 years, I needed a place where I could sit and think for a few minutes and gather up my thoughts and figure out what I was going to do next. And it was just perfect for me, quite honestly. I was there for 10 years before I finally decided to run for office. Ivanhoe was there with me, colleagues at the time. We both ran these institutes together and seminars. And then he and Marion went into the city government. Before I did, Marion decided to run. Ivanhoe managed his campaign, and then when Marion got elected, Ivanhoe left the institute to go over to run Marion's government. And so I'll tell you a little story that I've never told in public before, so I might as well say it now. When Marion got elected and became the mayor, I actually went to see him. At the time, for the Institute, I was doing a project in Yonkers, New York, a housing program. I was a consultant to the city of Yonkers. And I was showing them how to set up a self-help housing program that was being funded by the federal government. And I said, we should do this in Washington. So I went to see, I'm an expert doing it someplace else. I should be doing it in my hometown. So I went to see Marion and got my resume done, got myself a GS-12 so I could go into the government, DS-12, DC at the time, not DS-12. So I go into the city government. I went to see Marion, talking him into doing this, Diane. He hired me on the spot. Yeah, great. You come to work next week. I'm sure you'll do great for the city. And before I got home, he had called my house. He left me a message, said, you need to call me urgently. I forgot one thing, Coleman. He said, I hired you, but I forgot to tell Ivanhoe. And then he said to me, I said, well, you talk to Ivanhoe. He said, no, you got to call. So Judy, I said to my wife, Dean, at the time, I told Dean, I said, you know what? I don't mind working for Marion, but I ain't working for Ivanhoe. I got a job already. I'm not going to get ready to go down there and get fired by Ivanhoe. So I decided not to go. That's what I made up my mind. If I wanted to be in public office, I was going to run myself. So I came back, ran for city council, got elected several times, and worked with Marion as a council member. And in D.C. at a time when Washington was just first time getting home rule. And we came here, Ivanhoe, myself, a whole bunch of sneak people. There's more sneak people in D.C. than any other place in the country except probably Mississippi. And most of them lived in Ward 1. And we came here at a time when Washington, D.C., people here didn't have a right to vote. It was like Mississippi Delta. It's hard for people to believe that. People in Washington, D.C. today do not get the right to vote for a congressman or a senator or a governor. Today. The people in D.C. didn't have, they couldn't even vote for school board and for city council.
Vote for president. We couldn't vote for president.
Couldn't even vote for president. I forgot about that part. So we worked here to get this place organized, and frankly, quite honestly, this is my view of things. I've said it many times before. Many of us left the Mississippi Delta to come to Washington because this was probably the next place we could find with a big black population. But it was 76% black, just like the Mississippi Delta. They couldn't vote, just like the Mississippi Delta. And the only difference was that you could go out and register people to vote up here without getting shot at, get your house burned down. So closer we could come to the Delta without Ku Klux Klan. So many of us settled here and then used our organizing skills to get elected to office and organize other people here in the D.C. And not only get in there, but you heard your story today about Ivanhoe's role in chartering these pioneering programs here in Washington that also got presented in other cities. He not only managed this mayor's campaign here, he managed in other cities. He was a consultant of the government. People sought him out from around the country. And so it was, so we were able to carry out some of those principles that we have found at stake. When I was talking about doing a housing program here in D.C., I did a self-help housing program in the Mississippi Delta. And somebody sent me something I wrote back in 1964, 63, before I left Mississippi, about building a brick factory to teach people how to build their own houses. I tried to do that in Mississippi. And before I left, I organized a self-help housing program called Strike City in Greenville, Mississippi. So organizing around housing in D.C. with rent control and homesteading and things like that were things skills that I had learned in SNCC that I could now find a way to implement in the government. And D.C. built one of the largest black middle classes in the country. So we said goodbye to Marion Barry from the stage, and we don't say goodbye to Ivanhoe today from the same stage. Two buddies who belong together, and And you heard these stories about him all day long, and you heard my story about it. So here's what we're going to do now. We're going to allow all of the people in this room from SNCC who knew Ivanhoe to tell us your Ivanhoe story in 2 minutes. Now you got more than 2 minutes to tell, I know that, right? Everybody got more than 2 minutes. But you're only going to get 2 minutes a day. So save some of it. Don't tell it all today. Save some of it. And you can tell us later. After we've had another glass of wine, you have another glass of wine. You can tell some of it to us at private, okay? Don't say it all. Don't tell us. So we're going to ask you to line up that right in front of that podium. See that podium right there where my uniformed guy is standing right there? There's a podium right there in front of you. And there's a microphone right on there that Ed told you how to hold up. There's a camera facing you, me from out there, and one facing you from this way. and this is being podcast. So, send, all of us got children and grandchildren that are not here. Send it to them right now. Tell them to watch you on the screen, okay? Or you can tell your Ivanhoe story. So I just told mine I stayed within 2 minutes, and that means you got to stay within 2 minutes too, okay? And then when we finish this part of the program, you're going to hear some more music from the Freedom Singers who are going to sing, and then we're going to eat again, okay? Right. So 2 minutes, all right? So who wants to be first? Let me have first 3 hands. Raise your hand. 1, Bob Zellner.
Oh my God, not first. No.
Well, they told me to make Bob Zellner last for me. He and I had a little problem out of Mississippi about trying to stay within 2 minutes. But today he's in Washington now, so he'll do right. Okay, somebody, let's get somebody. Chuck, why don't you be first? Freedom, since you got to sing. Chuck Neblett with the Freedom Singers. Y'all heard him sing all day long. Chuck, you got to walk back there where the podium is.
Can I take my wine with me?
Yes, take your wine.
Yeah, take
All right, you can take it. Well, you're going to have to do that. You're going to be all over the internet with your wine in your hand.
Right here.
Right there.
Hold the wine for a mark.
My Ivanhoe story.
So introduce yourself first.
My name is Charles.
Tell us where you
Smith.
worked at SNCC.
I worked in Carroll, Illinois. I worked in Missouri, and worked in Mississippi with SNCC. And I sang with the Freedom Singers. The original group, I think it's the 3 of us left, which is Luther Harris, Bernice Johnson, Reagan, and myself. And when we organized the Freedom Singers, taken from song leaders throughout the South, we had a lot of song leaders, and they needed a group to take the message of the movement throughout the North, to raise money and to organize support groups. Now, we all came to Atlanta. We rehearsed for 3 or 4 days. We all kind of knew the songs, but we all sang them differently. So we had to rehearse for a while. And the first person who drove us on that first tour was Ivanhoe. And I got to know Ivanhoe pretty good, but he was kind of hard to get to know in those days. And he was always seemed to be nervous to me and ready to go from one place to the other. He's ready to get things done. He just had that kind of energy that he had to keep going and get things done. And after that first tour, I don't think he wanted to drive with us anymore. And due to the fact that it was Cordell, myself, and Cordell and myself. But Ivanhoe, he was the one who took us around and drove us, and he wouldn't let us drive. He wanted to do all the driving. I think he just loved to drive.
Yes.
Yeah.
He just loved to drive, and he did all the driving. And on that first tour, I think he went on to bigger and better things. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chuck. Bob Zellner. Corey, you'll be next.
Okay, I'm Bob Zellner, and so I joined SNCC in 1961. I thought it was a going affair, but I realized later on that was the beginning of the staff, and we always thought the SNCC was way ahead of us, and but anyway, I was with SNCC from 61 to 66 or 67 when we started the GROW Project, grassroots organizing work, organizing white folks, which I am white, or was. And so anyway, we organized the Deep South white people. I'm still organizing white people and black people in North Carolina now with Reverend Barber and the Moral Mondays movement. We just had 1,000 people sitting in at the legislature, 5 groups of 200, well-trained in civil disobedience. And nobody in the country is hearing about it. You don't know what's happening in North Carolina except the bathroom issue. There's other things. My Ivanhoe story is this. Yes, I agree. Ivanhoe was a little bit difficult to know in the beginning. We worked together very closely, and I remember I'm going to tell the good, the bad, and the ugly about Ivanhoe because we tell the truth. In Danville, Virginia, which is also unknown in the movement, the most bloody campaign in the SNCC analog. Ivanhoe was running our nonviolent workshops. He was very good at that. But he was also very nervous. And he was a man from the streets in some ways. We also had people down from the north, and one of them was from Brandeis University. And he had a bad habit of getting in jail. And every time he got in jail, I'd have to get in jail because he was white and he needed some help in jail. So I would go to jail with him. And one time we had just gotten out of jail, and Danny Foss was the student from the north, and Danny Foss had glass-bottom glasses, and he had detached retinas. And the police were beating him all the time, so he didn't need to get beaten anymore. But we were in a nonviolent workshop, and Ivanhoe got really pissed off with him, which was easy to do, and Ivanhoe slugged him. Now, I think it was part of the nonviolent workshop, but anyway. I assured Ivanhoe that when I was in college, I was a martial arts instructor, and he was tough, but I believe I could whip him, and if he ever touched Danny Foss again with those bad eyes, I would whip him within an inch of his life. So anyway, that was part of our experience in Danville. It was so tense that we were all charged with the John Brown statute. And a whole bunch of us, including foremen and so forth, were charged under the John Brown statute. And they wanted to hang us like John Brown because we were inciting the black population to acts of war and violence against the white population in Danville, Virginia. An unknown story, so check it out. Ivanhoe was a hero, and he was a brother of mine. Amen.
All right. Thank you, Father John.
Okay, my name is Cortland Cox. I joined SNCC in 1960-61 and left about 1967. My Ivanhoe story really centers not at SNCC, but around the election of Marion Barry. Marion was one of three people running for mayor. The incumbent mayor, Walter Washington, the chair of the city council, Sterling Tucker, and Marion. He was considered then the young insurgent. At some point during the tense election period, there was an attempt to coalesce around Sterling Tucker and to bring a number of people to bring him to support Sterling Tucker and to move Marion out because people thought that Walter Washington could not win. So at 4:30 a.m. in the morning, my phone rings, and Ivanhoe says, "Did I wake you up?" I said, "Yeah." And then he proceeded to go on for the next hour to tell me that I had to work with him to think through what the strategy would be to deal with this issue. Well, actually, after an hour, we thought about what the strategy was, and Marion was able to go on and win. But I'll never forget him calling me 4:30 in the morning. "Did I wake you up?"
All right, Judy.
Oh, I did. Actually, I do have one quick thing.
Over here.
Oh, you, Judy. Another Judy?
No, I'm calling you.
Oh, you didn't need
But
me.
you gotta stand over there by the thing.
Okay, yeah.
All right, yeah, you're gonna stay there. Judy Richardson.
Yeah. Okay, this is Judy Richardson, worked in SNCC staff 63 to 66. A number of places. The old.
Give me the static.
He's one
Yeah,
arm.
I'm trying to think what I am. Okay. I'll stay right here. And
I think you're okay.
okay.
You can move it up.
Okay. Okay. So, very quick Ivanhoe story. Ivanhoe really could. It's like Cortland said. He could just pull you into the stuff that he thought you might be. Don't do that.
No, I think it's somewhere else. I don't.
Oh, it's not me. Yeah. Okay. So he could pull you into things, and so So he pulled me into the Gary Black Political Convention. And let's not forget that in 1972, he was major as an organizer in that. And that was pulling together a lot of the, old line black Democrats from Detroit, the Detroit machine, the New York machine, and then the nationalists, Baraka was coming in with He is the Sun, He is the Moon, and a number of things were happening at that time. But it was a lot of forces coming together at the Gary Black Political Convention. But that's not the story. The story is that he also got me working for Marion's campaign, right? And when we're in the office and we're all listening to the radio reports, and it really seems like Marion's going to win. Now, it just did not occur to me that Marion could win, right? So I go into Ivanhoe's office, he's campaign manager, and I said, Ivanhoe, I think Marion's going to win. And he looked at me, he said, well, of course, Richardson, what did you think? And I said, but no SNCC person has ever been the mayor of a major American city. He said, well, of course, we wouldn't have gotten into it if we didn't think he could win, which is the thing that was, yes, you, Diane, was saying. So, that's the short story.
Yeah, we need some technical support. Got those. Okay.
I know people are lining up over there.
Yeah, we gotta get started. I'm gonna call you all out by name if you don't. Now, Charlene, you were one of the people that saw him toward the end. Charlene Crans.
That's a report, please.
Charlene Crans.
No chase.
Charlene Crans was, let me say, Charlene Crans was the baby of the civil rights movement. She was probably in the 9th grade with Juanine Henderson.
She's going to be the last one standing.
She might have been younger than Juanine when she joined up. I don't know. You and Juanine, y'all competed for being the babies. Y'all weren't old enough, I know that. You were freedom fighters. Old enough for what? Been like that all over. Old enough to go to jail without your parents.
My name's Charlene Krantz, and I'm a Washingtonian. And I first met a lot of these people when I was in high school and somehow got involved in the NAG activities at Howard. And the first time I walked into the DC SNCC office, Mike Thelwell, where are you now? Mike Thelwell was the head of the DC SNCC office, and I was a high school student. I had just turned 16, gotten a driver's license. And I walked in, and it was the dead of winter, and it was the winter that the SNCC offices all across America were collecting canned goods and winter clothing to send to the Mississippi Delta. So when I walked into the DC SNCC office, there was a mountain, and I mean like a mountain of winter coats and a mountain of canned goods stacked up all over the DC office. I introduced myself to Michael, and I said, I'm here to volunteer. What would you like me to do? He points at the mountain and he says, organize that. So that's what I did. Every time I went to the DC SNCC office, I organized that, and eventually they got trucks, and we loaded stuff on the trucks, and it went down to the Mississippi Delta. So that was my first volunteer work. And I remember hearing about this student from Michigan State University who was driving trucks of goods like that from Michigan and all across the north to the Mississippi Delta. So that's the first time I'd heard of Ivanhoe. I actually met him the first time in the summer of 1964 in Atlantic City at the Gem Hotel, which was the headquarters of the MFDP in Atlantic City. So I got actually face-to-face to meet him then. So I've known him more than 50 years. So let's fast forward to the last year. Ivanhoe and I ended up living 4 blocks from each other here in Northwest Washington. And I had retired, and then he got sick. And I said to him, I'm right down the block. I'm around during the day. I'm driving. Whatever. If you need anything, call me and I can run errands for you or whatever. So over the space of the last year, he did. He'd call and ask me to go get groceries, or he'd call and ask me to pick up a prescription, or to drive him to a doctor's visit, or to drive him to the Z-Burger for his beloved chocolate milkshake and rice bowl. We went to the Z-Burger so many times that the last couple of times he didn't get out of the car. But I would go in and I would point to the car, and the guys behind the counter would all wave at me. They knew who it was, and they made up the order. I didn't even have to say the order. So I was very glad that I was around and was able to do that for him these past 12 or so months.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Reggie?
I knew you were going to do that.
Yeah,
I
Reg.
knew you were going to do that.
and you get to call the next person. When you finish, you call the next person.
I can call the next person.
Yeah. Now, I've met Reggie Robinson. I met Reggie Robinson in Macomb, Mississippi. I think it was 1960 or 61. And I don't know how long he had been in Mississippi then. But Reggie had been there for a long time. And Dion Diamond was already in jail in Louisiana, had a lot of time in Louisiana. So I was still in the Atlanta Civil Rights Movement then. I was actually chairman of the Atlanta Civil Rights Movement for a period of time. And I had gone to Mississippi actually with Judy and Bonnie. I rode back together. New Orleans, up through Mississippi. Reggie was already down there. I'm killing a little time for you, Reggie. So I don't know anybody. I thought Reggie was from Mississippi until lately. I learned how he was from Baltimore. He just went down there for SNCC. He got talking to going down there like the rest of us to Macomb at the time when it was. In Macomb, Mississippi, just for the all who don't know Macomb, in Macomb, Mississippi, there was 75 church bombings in 1 year. They bombed every damn thing in sight. And first night I was there, we spent the night at Miss Quinn's house. The fire had been bombed with dynamite. Half the house was blown away. Of course, being SNCC, we had to sleep in that house that night to prove how bad we were. And I slept with 1 hour. I wasn't retired enough by that time. For me, it was a tactic. I kept 1 hour in case I had to get out of there. But Reggie was already down there. Reggie Robinson.
Hey, family.
Hello.
Hey, Reg. Hold it close to your mouth, Reggie.
See what's that? Gotta do it like that?
Yeah.
Gotta do it?
Yeah, that's it.
This
Yeah.
thing doesn't work. My brother, this thing. Okay. Probably the only person in the room that's gonna remember this is Judy. But I think the funniest thing comes to my mind about Ivanhoe is that we were getting ready to move into New York, and it was kind of like around holiday time, and folks was trying to find New Year's Eve parties to go to. So Ivanhoe had called me and said, what you up to? And I said, I'm not up to anything. He says, aren't you going to some of the parties? I said, no. Well, I had been invited to an exclusive party at the home of Mr. Belafonte.
Mr. Belafonte.
And so we were up in there, and I'm in the back room just having me a good time. And Harry comes back and says, come in. I said, what's up? He says, I got somebody at the door that wants to see you. He says, you invited him over here. I said, I invited somebody to your house? He said, come on. And I get to the door and I see Ivanhoe and Judy. So he says, are those your people? I said, no, I don't know. And everybody knows the relationship of Harry and the Hoe, because that's how he got to be the Hoe, because Harry called him the Hoe. But Harry closed the door and says, I'm sorry, I don't know y'all. And we went on back and had a good time that day. Who told me to call up the next person?
Kathleen. Don't waste time.
It's a very short story.
And you get to call up the next person.
Yeah, you get to call. Yeah, Kathleen. Yeah.
Because I wasn't even gonna say it.
I know you wasn't. Neither would I.
Kathleen, then you get to call the next person.
Okay, I'll call somebody that I
It can
know.
either be somebody you like or don't like, doesn't matter.
There's nobody here I don't.
All right, well, in that case, you call it.
I'm from Tuskegee, and Tuskegee was a site in Alabama where there's a lot of SNCC activity that involved, among other people, someone named Ernest Stevens, whose mother I know.
Step back a little bit. Step back one step. Take one step back. Try it.
I knew Ernest Stevens from Tuskegee. He and I started dating right before I went to college in New York, so it must have been 66 or 65, I can't remember. I met through him George Ware, who was a mentor and a very, very amazing person, and became my closest, what do you call it? No, not colleague, mentor, teacher, friend in the movement. And so I ended up going to Barnard College, not because I wanted to go to Barnard, because my parents wanted me to go back to college and I wanted to go to New York. So I said I'll go to Barnard. I was living across the street from George Ware and Ernest Stevens' apartment, and they had a party at the end of the school year for SNCC people, and I went to the party, and I met somebody who was out.
Back up a little bit.
So he asked me, "What are you doing for the summer?" And I said, "I'm looking for a job."
Yeah, we're trying to.
Like you're teaching.
And he said, "Well, I'm looking for a secretary. Why don't you come down to the SNCC office?" And he wrote down on a piece of paper the address. And I was somebody who'd been wanting to go into SNCC for 5 years. I'd watched all the demonstrations. I'd been in high school. I could never go there. And I was like, oh my God, going to the SNCC office. So I went to the SNCC office. He hired me to be the secretary. And I sat right in the front of the New York office and met everybody, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't know then that Ivanhoe and Ernest Stevens had been at Michigan State together, and I don't know whether they really liked each other. But, so I did everything I was supposed to do, and at one point, Ivanhoe told me that I think I said I wanted to go to Boston for the 4th of July weekend, and he knew who I was going with. He said, "You can't go." So I told Ernest, and he said, "I'm going anyway." So I went, came back, and he said, "You're fired." And George said, "I'm going to," because Sammy Young was murdered, George Ware decided, because Sammy had been so powerful in the Tuskegee movement, and George had been essentially the head of TILE, Tuskegee Institute Advancement League, that he felt responsible when Sammy Young was murdered. He felt somehow or other he had something to do with that. Here he was, a big-time chemist in New Jersey. He said, "I can't stay. I'm going back to Atlanta. I'm going to go back to school, go back to the campus travel program." And he said, "Kathleen, I want you to come with me and be my secretary." So we had gone off somewhere for this holiday, came back, and Ivanhoe told me, "You're fired." That's okay, because I went to Atlanta with George.
Okay. You ready? Okay, you gotta come up on the stage. Okay, we are going to solve this technological problem, y'all, by relocating to the stage. So can we get, who's coming up next? Can we get the next two people to come up? Somebody?
Can you go up on the stage?
Yeah, come on. Come on here. Freddie, come on up to this group right here.
Okay, yeah, go on the group.
And Dory, all right, come through this door right here. Come on.
There we go, and to the right. After go in and to the right. All right, we'll never see it again.
Right, exactly. It has that feeling to it, doesn't it?
I've never told anybody that story ever. This is the right now. These are the people who understand.
My name is Karen Kunstler. I was in Holly Springs, Mississippi in the summer of 1964. I'd been in Mississippi before. I was a student at Tougaloo Southern Christian College in 62, 63, where my classmates were Dory and Joyce Ladner, so I knew them already, and I knew about the dangers of being in an interracial group, and had been picked up many times by the police then. And then I go fast forward to 1964, and I'm in Holly Springs, Mississippi, and had gone through the training and knew all the precautions we were supposed to take. And then I get this assignment from Ivanhoe to go walk downtown in Holly Springs and go to the Western Union office. Well, the Western Union office I don't know who was wiring us money, but somebody was wiring us some money. The Western Union office was in the back of a store where white brides, white engaged young women, would pick out their plates and their silverware and their dishes. So you'd walk in, and there were all these lovely tables set up. And I walk in my jeans and my coveralls and my snick button and go to the back where the little booth for the Western Union place was, and get the money and walk back to the snick house. And at some point I was talking with someone, and I said, it's a little creepy there. Everyone was staring at me and sort of sneering at me, and maybe I shouldn't go alone. Maybe some guy should accompany me. Forgetting all the rules. And Ivanhoe said to me, look, you go down there, people stare at you. I go down there with you, we'll get killed. And that was like the first or second week. And he had our safety first. He was so careful about how we traveled, where we went in interracial groups. And one incident I remember, we were going to a mass meeting at church in a little town, and Ivanhoe was driving, of course, and I was on the floor of the back seat because they didn't want anyone looking in the windows to see an interracial group, and we got stopped. And I'm lying there like in a panic, and Ivanhoe, thinking always of safety, jumped out of the car so the sheriff or whoever he was who stopped us would not look into the car. And I don't know how he talked this guy out of taking us downtown, because they did that. It didn't matter whether you were driving the speed limit or whatever, as everybody knows. And I've never forgotten those incidents, because we had work to do, but safety first. And I saw Ivanhoe many times over the years, and there was a lot of talk about him being an intellectual and being so well read, and I think the only person I know, I'm just bragging a little bit, the only person I know who could compete with him is my husband in terms of knowledge of everything. And I have wonderful memories of Ivanhoe, and this is a sad day, but I'm so glad we're all here to celebrate his life.
Hi, my name is Freddie Green. My name is Freddie Green Biddle. I grew up in Greenwood, Mississippi. During the winter of 62-63, Mississippi discontinued all the food subsidies that they were giving to people who were in need. And this was as a result of all the movement work that was really going on. And the discontinuing of food subsidies to people caused SNCC to then raise food, to get food donated from northern cities and all. Ivanhoe drove one of the food trucks down to Clarksdale, Mississippi, which is also in the Delta. And we were all concerned because my senior year in high school, and Ivanhoe and the other student had been arrested, and they had been accused for bringing down illegal drugs into the state of Mississippi. They stayed in jail for a period of a couple of weeks. And then afterwards, Ivanhoe came down to a church rally, a mess meeting, as we call them, to my church, to Wesley, and we had this big open house for Ivanhoe and the other students. It was a very heartfelt, warm reception. We were all very, very glad to see him and very glad for all the things. That was my first meeting of Ivanhoe, and I liked him initially and we became friends. I definitely feel that he was a warm-hearted, a very giving, and a very sharing person. Thank you. And this is a very sad day, but I'm glad that he's had a good life and he's contributed so much to so many of us.
This is a sad occasion for me, but also
What is your name, please?
thank you, Reverend Bob. My name is Dorian Latner. I was born and raised in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Joined SNCC in 1962. I met Ivanhoe in Atlanta August of 1962. He drove a group of us up to Highlander. Curtis Hayes, Hollis Watkins, Sam Block. Ruth, I think I've seen you in the photographs. I don't know SNCC people then, Charles Jones and others, I've seen the photographs, but at Highlander. And while this young man was driving this truck that I didn't feel he could control, I couldn't drive at all. The truck was very large, and as we were climbing up the mountains, he was sometimes appeared to lose control of the truck, but he kept going, and I was frightened to death. But he mastered it and got us up the hill, and always after then, I had this very special kinship with him. The other thing I must say is that I truly love his combative spirit. I have one.
That's you.
Okay.
And he liked that in me. He said, Latin, I know you're going to get him. You're just like me. You're going to get him back. But the one special occasion was when he was going to get married. He called me, kept calling me to make sure that I came to his wedding. And he said, you know, you remind me so much of my mama. I want you to be there. And I never met his mother. Did any of you meet his mother? I have no idea, what kind of person she was. I said, she must be a special lady because I knew who I was. I said, oh my God. But I appreciate that. And he called me maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and the voice was so raspy and heavily laden, I had difficulty understanding who it was for a few seconds. And after he told me who it was, we conversed, and then he talked again about that, and you're just like me. You're just like me. We'll get him, won't we? I said, yes, indeed. But I always admired him because he was always mobile. I mean, very intense, very much on the go. And in Mississippi, when he first came to Mississippi, I was watching him from a distance, but I always saw this dichotomy, an intense person on one hand, a very loving and caring person on the other hand. And so a lot of people were scared of him, but I was never frightened of him because I was raring to go too. For whatever it was that was going on, but I admired his brilliance and his tenacity, and he was never frightened by anything. And so I must say that I truly, truly miss him, and every day, for the most part, up until recent, I went to Mississippi in April, last part of March. I called and leave a message on his phone to to tell him about things that were going on. I knew that he may have been too tired to talk, but I would fill him in on what was going on, what I was doing, and so forth. And when I got ready to go to Mississippi, I left a message saying, "You may not be here when I get back, but I want to tell you that I'm leaving town, and take care of yourself, my dear brother," and so forth. And while I was there in Jackson, I did get the word he had expired, which pained me tremendously. And I called here and told that he had passed. But Latin, you're just like me.
Okay.
Oh, I have a.
Got him out? All right, come on, Joyce.
Hold it.
And then Gene Smith.
No, I have nothing to say, thank you.
Wally?
Hey Frank, I have a statement that Cleve Sellers sent.
Okay. You gotta come up.
I'll read it. I'll read it there.
Okay, we need a couple more people on stage.
Can you read it? And Maisha has
something?
from Bob.
Okay, cool. So that'll be 3. So the next 3 people, y'all start getting your thoughts together so you can come up here. You know who you are. You all know who you are. If you haven't been up here yet, I'm talking about you.
I said earlier today that Ivanhoe was someone who was always a step ahead of us, discerning. It was in that photograph we took at Tuttle House when we were sitting in. He and George Green was standing. I know why George was standing. George was ready for battle. George was always looking around. Somebody's about to attack. He was going to attack first. Ivanhoe was standing there looking out the window. And that was always a kind of metaphor for me, for Ivanhoe. I remember after the Freedom Democratic Party convention was over in Jackson, there was a convoy of cars, maybe about 4 cars of us, people and other people, riding to Atlantic City. And was anybody in any of those cars? Judy was in. And I was driving one of the cars. Cleve was driving one. Do you remember who was driving the other? Stokely comes to mind.
George Green was always a good driver.
Yeah. I don't know if he was driving, yeah.
Anyway, they had these walkie-talkies, and if there was a cop car coming, I would say, "Hey man, slow down, here they come." And then it was exciting. I was so excited to be in that convoy, especially when they were talking to each other. And we stopped at Cleve's parents' house in South Carolina. And we had showered, changed clothes, and his mother made some wonderful food for us. And then we got back in the cars and went on to Atlantic City. Ivanhoe always took charge of situations. When I said earlier today that he was a good driver, and I said it because, in SNCC, you really, really had to be a good driver if you were going to go into dangerous situations, because you had to map your way not only in but out. And when Karen Kunstler just talked about putting her on the floor, I used to carry a black scarf in my pocket. And when my roommate at Tougaloo, Joan Trumpauer, went someplace with us, we were coming back at night, at that point it was a long dark road, Hanging Moss Road for Jackson, 8-mile stretch. I always put a scarf on her head, and cars were coming, I pushed on the floor, and she would protest, and I said, "But you're not going to get us killed." She said, "I'll tell them off." I said, "Not in my lifetime." I always tell Joan about that now. And she said, "Yeah." She was combative. But he was, the last time I saw Ivanhoe was when Charlie's book was published. And there was a book party at, come on, tell me the name of the place. The street. No. Busboy and Poets.
Yeah, and he was, I had just bought a copy of the book, and he was about to buy one. I said, I'll stand on that and get it for you. He said, no. And he was very, very weak at the time, and I gave him a hug. And I was so happy to see him out, you know, because I knew how ill he was. Then I wanted to go to see him in the hospital, and Judy said, asked me, have you called him? I said, no. She said, I don't think you should go. In accordance with his Idaho's protocol, you know, he didn't want people to see him there, unless he invited you or whatever. But he was truly one extraordinary person. I remember when I just got back from Tanzania, and I was here in D.C., and I was telling him I'd been to Tanzania, and he said, I was at this apartment there was a group of us there for some reason. He said, I got all the books on the continent. And I said, I know you always have to have more than anybody else, don't you? And he said, but I do. And you know, he was quite well read on the continent of Africa. But he and I had a lot of mental tumbles back and forth because, you know, he was not going to be outdone, and he'd come right back at you, and I came back at him too. But he was very, very special.
So the first impression that Ivanhoe made on me was when I was about 6 or 7, maybe 8. Oh, my name is Maisha Moses. Bob and Janet Moses are my parents. So I was born in Tanzania, and when we came to America, we were living in Cambridge, in Peabody Terrace, and SNCC folks used to come through our house. And the one thing that I knew, and this somehow made an impression on me at that age, was that Ivanhoe and Judy Richardson had a very special relationship, a very special friendship. And that's what I knew about Ivanhoe that's all I knew about him for my childhood and growing up, in addition to the SNCC stories. And then later, and more recently, Ivanhoe got interested in YPP, and he and I would have conversations about YPP. And he spent a lot of time fussing at me and asking me, did I do this, and did I do that? And I didn't fully understand that or appreciate that until today, hearing the stories today. But the reason I got up here is because my dad asked me to share something, and so I'd like to do that. So he says, hi Maisha, if they invite people to say a few words for Ivanhoe, would you say these words for me? They are a take on Odetta's gift of heaven. Ivanhoe, gift of heaven, oh how you please me. Ivanhoe, gift of heaven, oh how you please me. We don't know where you come from. We don't know who you are. We don't know why you come to be with we. Long years, oh, how you please me. Many years, wondering how and why, and if there was anyone here for we. No longer are we empty. No longer are we lost. You have found, you complete we. Ivanhoe, oh, how you please we.
Can you tell us how Bob Moses is doing since his operation? We need news.
Mm-hmm. He's doing very well. He's in Florida, and he came through the surgery with flying colors, and it takes 12 weeks for the sternum to heal, and so he wanted to spend that time in Florida. So his heart, he feels much better in terms of that part of his health. He was scheduled to have hip replacement surgery on March 3rd, but of course he couldn't because he had just had the heart operation. So now he has to prepare for that. And so his walking takes a lot of effort, but he'll have the hip surgery at some point this year, and then he'll be in really good shape.
It's good to have the doctor in the family.
Right, yeah. Thank you.
All right.
My name is Jennifer Lawson, and like Kathleen Cleaver, I connected to SNCC first in Tuskegee, Alabama. I was a student there, and that I became active with our student group, the Tuskegee Institute Advancement League TILE, and then later with people, Winky Hall, Bill Hall, and others, SNCC people started coming to campus, and so I became active with them. And then eventually I left Tuskegee to work full-time with SNCC. And that I worked in Lowndes County, and in Lowndes County, Lowndes County, Wilcox County, Macon County, those were some of the first places that I worked. And in doing so, I worked with the Lowndes County Freedom Organization. The shack that we worked in and lived in was then often populated by Ivanhoe, Cortland, Charlie, Ralph Featherstone, Bob Nance, and a number of people. And what I treasured so much, and always treasured about Ivanhoe, was his brain. I treasured Ivanhoe's mind. And what I loved were the conversations, the discussions, Judy Richardson, what at the national meetings we would end up having. And that I just thought that Ivanhoe, like Cortland and Charlie and others, were just so very thoughtful. And it was really that I felt that when we thought through strategies, when we were thinking of what we would do next, that he was in one of the people who was really contributing in a meaningful way to make sure that we thought that through very carefully. And so some people might say we were all arguing. I don't think so. It was really rich intellectual debate. The last one that we had was interesting, and it was always spiced with Ivanhoe, was always spiced with good humor. Was coming back from one of the Duke Project meetings, and that Ivanhoe and Cortland and in the car, and then Ivanhoe just talking away about, and this was a few years ago, and it was a conversation again that reminded me of what I love so much about Ivanhoe. On a personal note, I was living in New York when Ivanhoe got married, when Ivanhoe and Winnie got married. And Ivanhoe kept calling me to say, "You are coming to the wedding, aren't you?" And I said, yes, I am coming. "You are coming to the wedding, aren't you?" I said, "Yes." And he says, "Well, could you stop by this jewelry store?" And because if you bring the ring, then I don't have to go to New York to get the ring. So I was responsible for it, and he was eager to make sure that I did arrive and that I greeted him. And so I was bringing the ring that he and Winnie used when they got married. Thank you.
All right, this statement is from Cleve Sellers, and I'm going to only read part of it because it's fairly long, but it will be posted on the SNCC Legacy Project website, and I'm asking Bruce to post it on the PrimVet's website. Cleve, as you know, was one of the people who came out of Howard University and was part of the Nonviolent Action Group, worked in Mississippi, and then went on to career in education. He talks about Ivanhoe, meeting Ivanhoe first in 1963 for the March on Washington, the place where Dory Latner and others called me, particularly Dory called me a sellout, but that's I haven't forgotten. For St. John's speech. Okay, Ivanhoe and I crossed paths again in Ohio at the Orientation for Freedom Summit. It was the summer of 1964, and Ivanhoe was going to be project director in Holly Springs, the largest project in Freedom Summer. I'd be there to help him. That was the plan at first. We intended to start on working on voter registration, but soon found ourselves leaving Ohio for Philadelphia, Mississippi, to look for Andrew Goodman, James Chaney, and Michael King, our fellow civil rights workers who had gone missing after going to investigate a church bombing. Ivanhoe and I, along with 6 others, took on the task to form a search party. There were days of paradox and pain, times when we had to look, needed to look, but yet were always afraid of what we might find. Yet still needing to find it. Ivanhoe and the rest of us lived in a loft of a barn. We were looking in the woods, in the shacks, in the sheds, in search of any trace of our comrades. As the days stretched out, we had a lot of idle time. It was during those times that Ivanhoe took the time to talk to me about the movement. He put things into context in a way I haven't forgotten. It was all bigger than us. We were putting our lives at risk. He was our spiritual leader, making sure we had what we had to do and had what we needed to do it. He reminded us that we couldn't wear a belt or anything shiny so as not to give ourselves away at night. He convinced us that we were doing the right things despite the fact that we should have been terrified. Under his leadership, we were motivated as a group to continue to block out any fear that might creep in from one side to the other. It was a time to see him at his best. He kept conversations going. There was a toughness about it, a courage that he insisted that we find within. He let us know that we were okay, that we made it through, that we were successful, but that we might mean to behave in a strict fashion to confront dark spaces and even death. We talked about what would happen if we find Chaney, Goodman, and Schwerner dead, and reminded us that if we did, then it would be a time to remember that we had what we need to come for, not to leave our fellow workers behind, to show even if we were killed, we would not be stopped. He led us that summer in ways that left us ready to go on and take over the state of Mississippi. The full message will be posted on State Legacy and CrimVest.
Great.
Okay, so now let's see. I was trying to make a list of people who haven't been up here yet, so let me try this. There are several of you all out there. Y'all know who you are. Eddie Garman, we'll call you out. Wadeen Henderson. Wadeen Henderson. Who else is out there that hasn't been up here? Penny? You can't, Penny? Are you coming up? You're not? If I had a open mic, I'd bring it out there. Okay, come on up. We got two of the, we only got one of the freedom singers. We got 3 freedom singers, 2 more left, and a guitar player. Why don't y'all come on up? Jones, are you coming up here, Jones? No. Where you going? Where you going, Jones? I told you I was gonna call him out.
Not North Carolina.
Okay, so y'all come on up. And here's Dion Diamond. He got here right on time. We heard it started at 5 o'clock. He's right on time. Okay, come on up.
Hi.
Prettyman. I was known as Julie Prettyman Smith. I ran the New York office, which was started, I don't think people remember. It was in a little, we had a little desk in Bayou Bruston's office, and Joyce and Ivanhoe and Portland and a couple of other people were working on Moretown, Washington. And that's when I met Ivanhoe. But I had a baby in October. And so when Miss Baker enlisted me in volunteering, I used to bring her down to the office and sit her on the desk. And I would work 3 to 4 times a week. And Ivanhoe was there at the time, everybody who was there at the time. But what I wanted to say that Ivanhoe, Charlie, and Reggie are my brothers. They may not know it, but I think of them as my brothers. They stayed at my house every time we came to New York. And the first thing Ivanhoe would do is go to the refrigerator and ask me if I had any spaghetti and meatballs or something like that. Charlie was the next one, right to the refrigerator. What are all these leftovers you have in here? I had 2 children at the time, so I always had to have food in the refrigerator. So they kicked my son out of the room. And one of the first things, and I was always in awe of them because of what everyone was doing, of course. And I got involved actually through Bob, Myosha, your father. And I started selling tickets to this concert for SNCC's 3rd anniversary, I guess it was. This was in January 1963. Anyway, one morning I got up and I think it was Reggie and Charlie and Ivanhoe were on the couch watching cartoons. What are you guys doing watching cartoons? You big, strong guys. Damn Mississippi bastards. But anyway, because I met Ivanhoe at the thing about Ivanhoe was he always was helpful, always doing something. I mean, the New York office was crazy. We were either moving someplace or mimeographing, you remember mimeographs? Or dealing with the press or some fundraising. Anyway, as we started getting more and more sophisticated, when I went to the March on Washington, I came in at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and Ivanhoe was at Stokely's aunt's house, and took me in, made sure I slept and got some rest, and he was just always very kind to me. And that's what my story is. All the through thick and thin, I guess about 2 years later, we gave this, what we called parlor meetings. We were becoming sophisticated. And we had Sidney Poitier, and I think Bob was at that one, and Jim, of course, was there, and it was in this multi-millionaire's house. And it was really big. I think we made something like $64,000 in one day, which in the 60s was quite a feat. And we went on from there to raise more. But at that time, when we left, it was one of those New York downpours. And they all left in one car, and I left in my car. And we drove for about 15 minutes, and it got so bad I stopped, pulled over to the side and stopped. and we're sitting there waiting for it to slow down. And all of a sudden there's this knock at the window. And it's Ivanhoe in the pouring rain. And he had been following me. And I said, what the heck are you doing here? You're getting soaked. And he said, I wasn't going to let you go back by yourself without any of us knowing what happens. You have to keep you safe. And it was like me in New York. But that's the way they were. That's what the Snook family people are all about. We loved each other and do whatever. Thank you.
Okay, so this is Betty Garman. I worked for SNCC from 64 to 66, both in the South and in DC. I don't have really long stories about Ivanhoe, but I do know I was one of those people who was very scared of him. And I had come from Berkeley. I was a political science major, and I was working in the office, and I was the person who sent out all the Friends of SNCC letters that would say, we're realigning the Democratic Party, it is very important, we want you to raise money, that our future depends on this, etc. And he would come into the office and I would be there with a mound of envelopes already stuffed, and then whatever the missile was that we were sending out that week, and he would say, why did you say this? Why did you say this? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't know. Like, and then, of course, I couldn't unpack all the envelopes and redo the mimeograph and just send out the perfect thing that Ivanhoe felt. But I do, in reflection, I also have a story about him driving back and forth to DC and us arguing about how many hours it was going to take. And I don't know how many times I drove with him, but I know that was something that I remember from the driving stories from today. But the thing that I have to reflect on is that to the extent that I was a pretty quiet person in SNCC, I did a lot of work, but I was pretty quiet. I wasn't very strategic, but I did a lot of listening. And I have to say that the person that I am today, that I was made into that person by my experience in SNCC. And Ivanhoe was a very important part of that, because we always had some kind of contention or argument or discussion. And maybe I didn't push back as much as I would have today, but I know I love you and I'm sorry you're gone. And you'll be missed, but you'll be in our hearts.
Okay, we're trying to wrap this thing up here, and I haven't called you yet.
Frank, can I just ask, before everybody leaves, can we do a SNCC photo?
Okay, before you leave, we got to do a SNCC photo.
Yeah, so don't anybody leave.
And we have also, let's see, now, there's anybody here who hasn't said anything that want to say something? I can't twist anybody else's arm. Dion Diamond, did you want to say something about Ivanhoe? Okay. Well, if you don't want to say anything else about Ivanhoe, let me just say once again, come on up. Come on back. Come on up. Oh, he said he didn't want to. I called his name out.
But he had his hand up.
I called his name out real loud. I said no. Dion Diamond.
There's no shrinking violence in SNCC.
Well, I will say this. I told you all when I met Reggie in Macomb, Dion was already in jail in Louisiana. Dion been served more time.
Get up, Dion. Get up. Come on, Dion. Get up, Dion. Get up.
Forward together.
Is your hand up back there? There's another hand up.
Is that Shirley?
Shirley?
Come on, Shirley.
Oh, yeah, Shirley.
Come on, Shirley.
Don't take time, just go.
She said no.
Oh, okay.
So we'll close out with Dion Diamond. I want to say to all of you, we're happy to have you here at the museum. One more time, will somebody pick up one of those fans who hang the flyers down there? We're doing a new exhibit at the African American Civil War Museum called From Bullets to Ballots. Bullets to Ballots. I know most of y'all associate that with Malcolm X, don't you? Well, we first heard that from Frederick Douglass, Charlie Cobb, in 1864. These African American soldiers are about the war. We now know who's going to win the war. And Douglass is telling President Abraham Lincoln that these men need the right to vote in order to defend themselves when they go back home to these places where they have been enslaved before. And so we started a new exhibit called Bullets to Ballots. And we're doing a series of lectures. One of the things we're doing next weekend is a play, a one-woman play about Fannie Lou Hamer. who was the queen of the voting rights movement in Mississippi, we have a one-woman play about her, so we're going to do that. We haven't hired a curator for this exhibit yet, but we will soon, and we expect to get it ready by the end of 17 or early 2018, when we move into our new building, triple the size of this exhibit, and we'll also have theater in there.
And now we may have to go from the ballot to the vote.
Well, Zelda always wanted the retrogress, so we're not going to. But you may be right about that, Zelda. I don't know. But let us hear from Dion Diamond. I said to you earlier, affectionately, Dion Diamond was a freedom rider. He's been arrested. He had the longest sentence that I know of anybody in SNCC besides Ruben Doris Smith.
He's a criminal
and he's somebody who's been spent most of his life, adult life in the civil rights movement. And I'm sure he wants to tell us his famous Ivanhoe Johnson story, Dion Diamond.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I was indeed reluctant to say anything because I have very little to say. My intimate knowledge of Ivanhoe is mostly from D.C. because when he came south, I was already behind bars for so long that I really didn't get a chance to interact with him so much in the south. When Ivanhoe was shuttling back and forth between Michigan and Mississippi, I was in Mississippi, and I don't know if it was Macomb that I first met him, or when I was working in Macomb and I met him, or whether or not I had just gotten out of jail in Baton Rouge. And as Frank was suggesting a moment ago, I've had some stiff sentences, and I've learned from each of them. And I'm very proud of the contributions that were made by me and others. But you know, most of my knowledge of Ivanhoe has been here in D.C. And believe me, I have several tales to tell of my knowledge of Ivanhoe in D.C. But I think the main thing is I appreciated and still appreciate Ivanhoe because of his tactical ability, because of his sharp mind, because he was incisive. He could see what the issue was and make a direct attack on it. And you know, there was a time when I kind of thought that I was halfway sharp. But somehow when compared to Ivanhoe, I have to take a back seat. He had a at times, acerbic tongue. He could cut you down very quickly and with very few words. And his demeanor was such that you have to respect it. Ivanhoe was one of a kind, as you all know. And indeed, we have had extreme loss. I am proud to have known him. I'm proud to have been associated with him. And you know, I don't know if we're ever going to find a person to interact in the manner that he interacted with us in SNCC, in the civil rights movement. In fact, I would almost say that he was another Byron Rustin, because he was just that incisive. And with that, I'll really say, we'll miss you, Ivanhoe. And I thank you for giving me this opportunity just to say thank you.
I'm Shirley Wright Cooks, and it's hard to talk about Ivanhoe because I've heard you all mention that he was acerbic and
Cantankerous?
But that was a side of Ivanhoe that I never knew. Ivanhoe and I shared a wonderful friendship, and I think partly because he was of Jamaican heritage, and so we shared that blessing. But more importantly, I did spend a lot of time with Ivanhoe when I spent time with him. We even traveled to Africa in the summer of 1968. We were gone for maybe 5 or 6 weeks with others. I thought it was just a delightful, engaging, curious, loving guy. And it was a pleasure for me and an honor for me to be able to share some of my life experiences with Ivan. And that's all I gotta say.
Okay, if, as they say, if all hearts are clear, all minds are clear, and the hearts are pure, then we're going to call this to a close. We're going to say farewell to our good friend Ivan Donaldson, and we'll remember the words of the poet. Our lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. Footprints that perhaps another sailing through life's solemn lane, that some forlorn shipwrecked brother seeing shall take heart again.
All right.
And all of that to all of us. May God bless him, and may God bless his memory. Thank you.
Everybody join.
Get down front for the film, and then I smell the food burning in back, so we gotta hurry up.
So photo first.
You want us down here or up there?
Easier to do it all if we can scrunch up here. And I'm wondering.
We sat on here before.
Yeah. I'm thinking, can all SNCC staff people come forward?
People sitting out there instead of coming up here.
Come on now. Come on now.
You bad, sister.
Yeah, but I'm not sure how that works.
No, it can't work as a long skinny line.
We're going to put some chairs.
Thank you. How you
We're gonna have to do this. Stand beside us. We'll see. Right here. Can I help you? Chairs in the center. Oh, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. You know what I mean? Right here. Pull these out. Pull them out.
Otherwise you block up the city.
Right there.
Hey, Rick.
How you doing, Sally? Sit down, Julie.
You sit down.
You know, McDo would never go back to Louisiana after that. Ever. He never he said he hated to fly across Louisiana because the plane might land.
Right. You know, it's still funny. Yeah. Whenever I tell the story about this, you know, I didn't even know that you and Chuck were leaving.
I know we never did get to see you, but we were there, yeah.
Well, I mean, I knew it afterwards. Oh, wait a minute.
She really did. Wadeen, Judy, get in the picture.
Compete these days. Well, guess what?
Yes, everybody in.
They can't see me anyway, so.
Oh, hold on.
Well, that's all right.
Can we turn sides?
Well, let the photographer tell them. Wait. Judy, the photographer say that we're fine.
Come on. I'm blocking
I
you.
can see. I can see.
Everybody's fine.
We're coming directly.
I mean,
I do too. And I like my photos after I crop.
Got everybody, all right?
Chitlins. Chitlins. Freedom.
Trump.
North Carolina.
Don't Trump.
Yes.
You can't see me, I can't see you.
Okay.
Here we go. 1, 2. Okay, we're gonna do some more. Another one. Invariably, somebody has their eyes closed. This one again. All right, here we go.
Open sesame.
And one last one right now. You are excellent.
Okay. Great.
We're the Freedom Singers.
Freedom Singers.
Oh, you don't need to eat. You're entertainers. You don't eat. Entertainers don't eat. I was just thinking about moving to a farm. I was thinking about let's go eat. Yeah, but I remember also
And he's mad as hell. That's my job here. I should be out something productive. I said, yeah, I'm productive. You can get me back.
That's what I was
Right, exactly. Reach out or you like this as a service. Exactly.